Coming to you from across the United States, this is Talking Shit.
Our first commercial should be to Skype, clearly, because we really, really like the product. We should make PayPal and Patreon and Skype commercials as our first couple.
Always a good idea to burn bridges as soon as possible.
Yeah, especially of all the platforms that you're using.
Video conferencing is something that blows me away that it's not been perfected to this point, like on computers. You know, the fact that my cell phone can do it better than the average desktop is fucking outrageous.
How is Skype making money? Do they have ads? I know that they charge if you do like international calls and stuff.
So some people have like a phone number through Skype that you can like use it as an actual phone in addition to internet calls.
Oh, and then all the rest of us are just free?
I guess, because I've never paid for it. Have you?
No.
Yeah. I know they're owned by Microsoft, so maybe they're just hoping to get it perfected.
I think it's like a market share thing. It's going to be like Google eventually, where you log in and it's still free, but now they're just like ads everywhere. And you're like, oh God.
Oh my God. Think of how annoying that would be.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. How does that model work? Because you couldn't have ads while you were using it.
I don't know how any internet ad works.
So,
I mean, honestly, can you think of the last time you fucking clicked on an internet
yeah,
ad?
I don't understand internet ads.
Oh, yeah.
Who's doing this?
I mean, I know, I remember I did it earlier today. I clicked on several internet ads and remember it because I fucking hate it so much because obviously I did not want to click on the internet ad. So it like fucks up, you know what I mean? Like I've never been like, oh, what is that?
Yeah. Yeah, like
I want to learn more about this thing.
It changes like all of the other ads you see because they're convinced you want that product now, and you're like, I didn't want that product. Like, it was an accidental click. Obviously, like, what do you think? Just after 10 years of not clicking on ads, that one day you really finally caught my attention.
Right. Yeah, I don't really. Plus, it's like I don't know if it's like retroactive is exactly the right word, but it's like. So many of the ads you see are for things that because you search for something and bought it. So it's like they're selling you like the exact thing that you don't need.
Yeah. So like
you know what I mean? It's like I bought a pair of shoes, so now I have them. So I definitely don't need to see ads for that thing.
I think maybe that's like a brand loyalty thing. They think that it's probably just stupidity. Like they don't know how to filter that out. But like. I would think that maybe they're trying to be like, okay, you have an iPhone. Now let's show you a lot of iPhone ads so you're proud of your iPhone. You know how to use your iPhone. Like, iPhones are in your head. And iPhone.
No, I think it's like Skype, man. It's 90% of a good thing. And, like, they just can't fucking figure out the last, like, key 10% to make it actually good.
But like
they clearly just don't know you bought the shoes or the iPhone or whatever.
Well, no, because like so I use this app that's like VoIP, so Voice over Internet Protocol app that I can text numbers with, and it gives me a real number, and it's totally free, but it has ads in it, and the number one ad in it is for the app. So they know that I'm using it. I have the app. I'm logged into the app. It's not like. You know what I mean? Like that's
right.
So it's got to be like I feel like there's got to be some intentionality to it, but then otherwise, yeah, it's like I don't know, what have I bought recently? There's another thing that I see apps. Oh yeah, like I bought a Freedom Pop. Like it's so Freedom Pop is like a very very cheap AT&T. It's like there's no customer service people to call at all. But everything else is exactly the same, and no store to walk in, and no, you couldn't. I guess you couldn't like purchase. Me and Trey have talked about this. You couldn't like purchase like an iPhone on, what do they call that? Where you pay over 6 months. I've never done this in my life. So. Contract, sure.
Jesus.
Well, you're not contract. It's not the same as like their old contracts where you used to like
Yeah.
you had to keep their cell phone service. Like you could pay it off and leave, or you could,
You could always do that.
Anyway, so it's like super cheap. I bought something, and now I just see ads for it everywhere, and it's like, no, I already have that thing, and I don't know. I literally don't know what's going on.
Huh.
So I don't know. Maybe it's like stupidity on their part, but
No, I think the VoIP thing is like they just don't want to put like your ad here. Like call 888-253 ads.
Yeah,
With two
it might be
S's.
that they're not selling ads, so it's like super cheap for them to use that. It's like unused ad space that they're taking over.
that totally makes sense.
in
too.
that
Yeah.
in that on that product that you told me about that I've never heard anyone else talk about or read about or can even really conceive of.
No,
I'm pretty sure nobody's putting ads on that thing.
I know literally 0 other people who have it besides Ashley. It's always just me and Ashley, and then no one else we know.
But seriously, how do people make money on ads? Because no one's intentionally ever clicked on one.
I don't know. It's been explained to me a couple of times, and I'm like, the people who give you the money from this stuff exist? Like, they're like, yeah, we make money if people click on it. It's like, who are those people? Is it just millions of accidental clicks? Like, or are there people out there who are like, ooh, thanks for telling me what I need. I'm gonna go ahead and buy that. Like,
Yeah.
I used Google Ads and ran some banner ads with the unnamed company that I ran for some time.
yeah, that thing.
And you get all these analytics from it, like they let you know like how many people clicked on it, whatever, who all saw it and all that,
Yeah.
the analytics of it, right? And so I could see like this person was on the internet at this time and searched these keywords and saw my ad and clicked on it and then made a purchase, right?
Okay.
And just fucking blew my mind every time. Every time that it happened, I was just like, what is happening? How is this possible?
Really? Well,
And I never understood. Of course, I can't be like, hey, I saw that you purchased this product from me. I hope that you're happy with it. If we could just talk for a moment about what is happening in your fucking life that you clicked on an ad and then made a purchase.
that's so weird.
What?
So like,
That's a weird.
were you doing this with Google when their top search result is always an ad now? You know how like the top search result is
Yeah.
like
Yeah, it was
the
during
ad
that time.
okay, so they were doing that when you were doing it.
Yeah, but my like the level that I was balling on or whatever was way lower than that. So I was almost
okay.
never the top.
Oh,
thing.
okay.
So you would have to like scroll down a ways.
Wait, so like they didn't just click on a fucking ad. They scrolled to page 40 and clicked on an ad? What? How?
I was like late ones. Yeah, I was like late in page 1.
Yeah.
I mean,
they skipped,
sometime
like,
the way that
40
it worked
ads
out,
before
it
they
would.
clicked on yours. Is what I'm saying. It's just crazy.
Yeah. It's nuts. Yeah, I don't know how that works, but there is a shit ton of money in it, and people are making tons of money. I mean, I kind of know how it works. I guess I'm one of the people that I like a mentor, kind of in that business that I was working with. He ran a company that sold scrubs, like nursing scrubs.
Okay.
So, and made, I'm not trying to put that dude out at all, but there is a large amount of money to be made in that field. And this guy's deal, like the why this guy was kind of famous or successful, both of those things was, his whole thing was figuring out how to get, how to make money off when people would click on those ads. So like scrubs are kind of a weird thing where there's not really a brand.
Right.
You know, there are tons of people that wear them. You know, like it's like, 85% people who work in the medical field, and then 15% of, losers, couch sitters. And so there's a ton of people that wear them. They have to wear them for their job. They're a very specific kind of thing. Like there's not very much play back and forth, like, it's not like there's a million variations of them.
Right.
It's pretty much just the fabric that you use and the colors. But there's this total subset of people who have to wear them all the time. So that's kind of different than just like, oh, I think I want to buy, a Walkman or whatever, just like regular people buy.
Yeah, true.
So he was like way into those analytics about finding where people clicked, or like there's a weird deal where people will click on a second or third ad. Like they get like beat kind of like the first time they see an ad, they're like, fucking ads, I'm looking for scrubs. And then like they realize that they're not going to find what they want in like the first 5, which you usually do. And then they like break down, and there's somewhere like, I don't, it's the number's different for everywhere, but it's like, if you're like the 7th to 10th search result on some things, that's like the money spot. And it's infinitely cheaper than being 1. And you make whatever fractions of a cent, it's all thousands of transactions an hour over fractions of cents. But yeah, just for like regular people buying shoes, like I'm not clicking on the, I'm not, oh, hey, look, a pair of shoes. They look almost exactly like the ones I just bought. I really like those shoes. I'll get another pair that's the exact same, or whatever I don't know if people buy clothes. I don't know how people are doing it, but
I have no idea. Yeah. I mean, I guess like 70% of stuff that's sold online is on Amazon or something, like some huge percentage. So like, mostly just that. And I also do that. I mean, if Amazon is one big ad, then I definitely click on ads.
Oh man. Yeah, that's true.
yeah.
Yeah, it is weird how you search for something on Amazon, all of a sudden you see all these pop-ups everywhere for like, hey, remember that thing you looked at the other day?
Well, not to mention Amazon just like, because it has so many options, they are, like you're having to sift through it. Like, oh my God, how are there like 40,000 different brands of like cords for your iPhone?
I mean, ads are working some ways.
Yeah.
I mean, people are purchasing stuff.
I mean, I feel like I told you this a long time ago, Trey, but I like met a guy. We were in some like business class or colloquium class or something, and one of the guest speakers was a guy who made like 180 grand a year designing where things went on the shelf at Walmart. Like that was, and he was just talking about like, yeah, we run analytics and we find out that like red is really good on these shelves and blue is really good on these shelves. So we advise that people set up on this particular shelf if they're this type of brand and use this type of color. And I'm like, whoa. Okay. And it's like, I get it. Like, obviously that's how people work. And so like, that's what they should be doing. But it's nuts to me. It's so nuts. It's like,
I like that kind of thing. I think is so cool because I picture like how, like if you walk into a room and you're like, here's the deal. We're going to put bright red stuff on the 3rd shelf in aisle 18, and it's going to increase sales by 10%. And then they do it, and then it works. Like, what kind of a fucking mind master do you feel like when you're able to do that? You know what I mean? Like, when it works, like, you just fucking roll around the office like damn straight. I know exactly where the blues go. Like, I'm...
Yeah, it's like feng shui, but not bullshit.
Yeah. And it's like, just to be... It has to seem like some crazy superpower. Or now I imagine we're kind of like post-surprise. But like 10 years ago, no one... I mean, those dudes were writing their own... How do you not pay that dude $10 million if he like... Especially something scalable like that. If he walks in and he's like, I can tell you where the Cheerios go, and if you put it in this place, you're going to make $2 million more this year.
yeah.
And I'm going to tell you that. And I know that shit for like, I'm going to tell you where the Triscuits go. And I'm going to tell you like what direction to put the Pepsi. And it's just cash money, all those places.
Yeah.
Those dudes had to be like superheroes. I like thinking about those dudes like, yeah.
Yeah, because
I'm
like
inside the mind.
The crazy thing is the guys who came before them were like, the consultants that came before them were like, yeah, you should sell in your jar of 100 jalapenos, just sell like 2 less. And then you guys will make like
right. Yeah. Also, like, how do you tell? Like, how can you run, like, well, this year we shot it with the smiley face hamburger. Like, can we tell that we sold this many more hamburgers, like, year over year since we changed it? You can never tell that. You just bullshit. If you were just, like, a cool dude, people would be like, oh, man, that guy's a genius. Like, you don't know.
Yeah.
But now you totally know. It's like 57 more boxes of Cheerios in store 1,042 in the last month because of the changed, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like
This dude's got the numbers to back
it's
up.
where science meets business, and you get like a lot of stuff in that arena where it's just like we can either actually do the statistics really, really well, and then not present them well because we're boring ass scientists and nobody buys our stuff. Or we can just use numbers to make up whatever we want and make it sound really cool and then go in there and make millions of dollars. And so, yeah, like I'm sure there are people who do it and do it well and are like actually, you know, like that's how statistics works. You can't ever be sure, but you can control for variables and like try and get closer to being right. But those guys who are like talking about that are probably boring as hell, like I sound, and nobody wants to hire them.
It's like
So
food stuffed Moneyball.
Yeah. I used to have this kid that I knew growing up who would like frequently when he would be drinking and want to like make a good point in his argument that Jesus was real, he would say that Charles Darwin on his deathbed like renounced everything that he ever said.
No.
Right? Which is my favorite and one of those where I'm just like, oh, dude.
Like, A, not true. But B,
A,
more importantly, if
More
it were
importantly.
true, how does that matter? How does it matter?
Yeah,
like, I
irrelevant.
don't understand.
Yeah.
Relevant.
I mean, honestly, if
The
you
whole-
read the book, it's fucking amazing. Even today, like it's amazing how much this guy who like basically had like a magnifying glass was
Oh.
able to figure out.
I
Like,
thought you were talking about the
Oh, yeah.
Bible, and I agree. That book is amazing.
Oh, the
So-
Bible?
Both those books are good. Both those books are good and rely on super low tech.
Yeah. It just depends on how you're reading them is what decides if it makes it good or not. So
See, that's just not true.
if
Like,
you're
I just-
reading,
I want to point out, like, if you read Origin
Yeah,
of
it is
Species,
fair. That is not true.
It's fucking amazing, and like you're like, holy shit, this is before Cowboys, and this guy's figuring out that like things are all related. It's crazy.
Yeah,
if
no,
you read
but
the
it-
Bible, you're like, the fuck you talking about, dude? That's all you can say to yourself.
If
the
you
entire
read
time.
Darwin like it was an allegory for basketball, it would not be good. If you read the Bible like it's real and true and literal, it's not good. But if you read the Bible to find really funny moments where like the angel says like, if you don't renounce, I will kill you and spare your ass, and he's talking about a donkey, and it's just because they used that word back then, and that's funny, like, then it's great. It's the best book ever. It's amazing. But any other way of reading it is just horrible. It's like worst day ever.
Right. I guess I'll be with you there. I guess the fun is ruined for me when I think about all those other people that, like, read it literally.
That's fair. That's fair. I mean, to be fair, a lot of people read Darwin and they were like, this is why we get to subjugate black people. It's like, I don't think it said that in there. I don't think it said that in there. Like,
No.
Yeah, that is true. I guess that, Joe, we talked about Louis C.K. and like all the art you got to like look back at now because of these revelations.
Yeah.
Is that kind of the same thing though? Like, can you read the Bible for enjoyment, knowing what you know? Like knowing what's happening in the world and what the Bible is being used for, can you just like look back at it and like maybe pick up some cool life lessons or like some good morality tales, or maybe like just enjoy the stories of like war and pestilence and rape and like, could you just enjoy the Bible as a book knowing what other people are doing with it?
oh, man.
Isn't that it seems like the same kind of
That's a good question, man.
consideration. Can you separate the art from the author, or can you separate the art from the audience?
I know Christopher Hitchens was noted for saying that the Bible had passages that were remarkably well written.
Yeah.
What do you think, Joe?
Yeah, I would have to say, like, again, I think, like, truth and good art is somewhat independent of the author. I don't know. You like it's good to view things both ways. Like, death of the author is really important, but then at the same time, like, what the author is trying to do with it is really important. So, like, I don't know. It's like if you did death of the author for Louis C.K.'s work, I think it's like really good work. But then you could also view it through the lens of the allegations and stuff. Well, I mean, not allegations, like agreed upon they happened situations. Because it's like then you could view his work through an entirely different lens. It's like maybe his work is like a man battling with these terrible things he's done, or a man making light of these terrible things he's done. I don't know what argument that would be made necessarily, but anyway, long story short, yeah, I think you can enjoy the Bible while people are out there doing terrible things, as long as you don't pay for it. As long as you don't pay for the Bible.
I mean, I find the Bible hard to enjoy. I feel like in an ideal world, I shouldn't find it so hard. But at the same time, like, even the best moral lessons, like, arguably the best moral lessons, the Golden Rule or whatever, not even original to Jesus. Like, he was just basically repeating what had already been said according to, like, I think it was Hinduism and Buddha. I'm not sure. But at any rate, I know the Golden Rule is not original to Jesus, and that's arguably the best lesson. And it's not even best stated, Like, you could even improve upon it. So, to me, like, no matter how fancy they manage to get for their time, it's still, just like rewatching The Dark Crystal. It's like, Jesus fucking Christ, come on.
I see. As an atheist, I think there's like some pretty interesting stuff in there. Like, who does God ask to kill his son? Why am I forgetting this guy's name? Abraham. Like, Abraham just like argues with God and convinces him that he's like not going to kill his son, basically.
Right. The interesting parts are the parts that everyone reads out, though.
Yeah, I know. Well, yeah, but it's like it's interesting to me because, like, as an atheist, like, that's one of my steps. It's like, well, first you have to prove that God exists, and then even if you did, then I might still disagree with the guy. Like, just because he can send me to hell doesn't mean I'm going to do what he wants. Like, he might be a dick, and it's like I'm not going to do what a dick wants. Like,
the religious act like God is not morally obligated to let everyone into heaven because of what heaven is. Like, think about it. If any person had access to heaven, like they had a heaven,
yeah,
how much of a bastard would they be to not just let everyone into paradise forever?
Well, I've had that exact debate with like a lot of Christians. I'm just like, so like if there was a king and the king was telling you had to like leave your family to follow him, you had to give up all worldly possessions, and also you could rape those people because they weren't his people, like, would that be a good king? And they're like, no. Okay, then why do you think God's a good God? It's different because he's a God. Okay, I don't know how to take this argument any further. Like, it's not any different. Like, if I don't understand. Like, if I create some biological thing that has feelings and stuff and then just torture it, it's not okay. Just because I created it, it's not okay.
Or even just threaten it with torture, right? Like, just threaten it with torture for eternity. That's pretty effing bad.
Yeah, I don't get it. Whatever. I don't know.
On both those examples, though, just back to enjoying the Bible, like, isn't it kind of your thing that you think that a God should be nice? Like, isn't that some shit you're bringing to the table? Like, why wouldn't God torture everybody?
No.
Or,
so
like, threaten them, or like only let some people in heaven, or like what?
Yes.
What is it that's intrinsic about godliness, where you would be, where a God would be nice?
So
I understand why you think that. I understand why you wouldn't, because of your human morality, do that. But like, why wouldn't God do that?
Well, so first of all, I'm not demanding that he's good, philosophically speaking, like as an argument, right? So like, if God is real and good, I would of course follow him. If God is not real, or if God is real and not good, just because he's God and can punish me doesn't mean I'm going to follow him, right? But that's totally to be expected. There's even Baptists who have said that to me. They're like, well, of course God is jealous and angry and spiteful and like kills people and stuff. Like, he's God. Like, why would he not do that? And it's like, I don't understand why you take issue with Satan then, because it's like you could worship either one if they're both just shitty people things, deity things. Like, so I use that argument all the time. I'm like, I argue with a lot of New Age Christians who are like, yeah, God is good because he's God and that's the way it has to be. And it's like, you can't imagine like a God who's like evil and spiteful. And they're like, no. And I'm like, well, what about the devil? And they're like, yeah, but he's not God. And it's like, well, it sounds like he has like dominion over a whole realm and can like do stuff. And
it's like imagine a circle. Okay, you did that. Then you can fucking imagine something with the ability to create Earth. Like, come on.
Yeah, but as discussed in the last episode, unaired, I'm not a Christian, but I can't see being a Christian the way that they sell it or the way that, people are Christians, but I could see being a Christian fundamentally based on, what's in the Bible. And part of it is like, yeah, but you wouldn't worship the devil because the devil doesn't have heaven to give you.
Yeah,
if in this whole balance we're saying like, yeah, he's a dick, God's a dick, and is like super mean to a lot of people, but if you do what he says, then you get eternity in heaven.
Right. Yeah.
Like what on earth would you not like? I don't know, maybe like forget about after a couple eons of being in heaven. Like what bad shit could you do on earth in the name of God that you wouldn't be like, what? That was a long time ago that I did that. Now I'm in heaven, so it's okay. You know what I mean? On earth, if you did something shitty, if you murdered somebody, you'd think like you got to go to jail for the rest of your earth time.
Right.
But if we're talking about like an eternity later in this heaven, which sounds pretty awesome, why would you not do like... Why would you not rape and kill in his name?
I mean, heaven sounds fucking lame in that case, especially if it's an evil god, because then you have to fucking spend all your time with this fucking dick. I mean, you have a friend who, like, is a little abrasive, and says things that maybe the wiser person wouldn't, and most people don't like that person, Maybe you do, but most people don't, and so... I mean, it kind of makes me feel like that's how God would be in heaven. You'd be like, God damn it. I mean, it's been forever. I mean, literally forever. Just look down. Look at all, they're burning. They're still burning. I can't even remember when they were not burning. And, fine, yeah, no,
yeah, but
praise you,
but
praise you.
Would you be bummed about it, though, if it's not like you're a human up there.
No,
and
I know. They say it's like
it's not like you're hearing them.
It's like, yeah, you're drugged out. It'll be fine.
That's
you won't
like
think about it.
I honestly you blew my mind, Trey. I think you feel like what you said was maybe like just a slight trivial argument, but it blew my mind. Like I'm considering converting right now. Here's why. So like that makes so much sense. Like even if God did, not only if God asked me to do terrible things, but if God did terrible things to my family, but then.
Or ask you to do terrible things to your family.
Yeah, after 1 million years, will I even remember who those people were? Like, I just, like... Everything becomes relative in eternity. Like...
No, except for, like, if you remember that your mom didn't, like, accept the right fucking Jesus guy or whatever, and now she's just down there.
I think you'd get over it. In eternity? Yeah, I think you'd get over that.
Why would you not? I've gotten over things that were bad from middle school.
It's been forever. I can't remember a time where I wasn't in heaven and my mom is just on fire. Why would that never occur to you?
Okay,
I mean, is it like you're high on heroin, just the entire, or ecstasy or whatever you want to name? Like, is that the thing? Like, you just
that's
never
part of
occurs
it.
to you?
I think it's better than that.
That's not like
I think it's
being
way
human.
better than that.
Now we're not even human anymore when we're in heaven. And by the way, speaking of being human, do we have free will in heaven? Can people do bad things in heaven?
I don't think so.
If people can't do bad things in heaven, then we don't have free will. And again, sounds like a pretty fucking boring place.
So I think that, like, the whole point is that he burns away all your earthliness, right? So like so
Well, that's not what Christianity says. Christianity says heaven is on earth. Like, there's a New Jerusalem, right?
well, there's some debate about that, but yeah.
I mean, that's what the Bible actually says.
Okay, sure. Sure.
Yeah, but I think there's some debate about what that means.
Yeah.
Down to that.
What I mean, yeah, I'm agreeing with Trey that there's like just some debate. So like if you look at like the things that Jesus is asking you to do before that, right? It could kind of lead you to think about what that would maybe be afterwards. So like he basically is like, get rid of your family, stop wanting things, stop like holding things against people, stop being involved in like what's going on around you, just do what God wants you to do, right?
If
so
you
like
combine the Gospels, that's what he says.
yeah, okay.
And like
Sure.
edit out discrepancies.
Sure. But
Okay.
my point is like, and then it basically says that he's burning all of your earthliness away when you go into heaven. So it's like, it would lead me to believe that like you become one with God, right? So you are this thing that doesn't have earthly attachments, that sees things the way that God sees things, that feels the ecstasy and oneness and love that God feels. And if that is the case, it does not matter if God asked you to like kill your sister. Like,
What
it's
about
just
your
like,
love for your sister?
It's gone. It's gone.
That's
And-
gone, yeah.
And after eternity, it's definitely gone. Like, it's
Yeah.
super gone.
I don't know. This maybe I'm just not convinced enough of heaven. I just can't imagine
Just to be-
forgetting about someone that I loved before and like never having the thought occur to me.
Just to be clear, I am
Right, but-
zero convinced of any of it. But Trey blew my mind.
Can you fathom immortality?
No, again, eternity is fucking stupid. It's the stupidest concept of religion. I know that like it's the whole point that it exists because they're trying to tempt you into thinking, hey, you're not gonna die, you'll still be here later. But like it's the stupidest thing because no one can comprehend what it was like before they were born, and no one can comprehend what it was like, what it will be like after they die.
Right. But I'm saying like if you agree to that possibility that these like the two eternities that like before you were alive, whatever happened then, you cannot comprehend that now as a human, and after you're dead you can't comprehend what's going to happen then, right? But there was a time when you weren't alive and stuff really happened, right? I mean, because you can't comprehend the first eternity as a human, that doesn't mean that it didn't exist. I mean, you recognize that there was a time before you were alive, right?
Yes, I'm not an existentialist.
Okay, so you reckon it's not a big leap to recognize that people are going to go on after you die, right? That in the other eternity, just because you're not here doesn't mean that everything stops.
I took your question about eternity to mean, can I comprehend what it would be like to be me for eternity? And honestly, like, I feel like the question's actually even simpler to answer if you try and make it even shorter. Like, just imagine what it would be like to live 200 years or 300 years. I feel like it would be quite difficult to remember what it was like when you were a kid. Like, it's already pretty fuzzy for me, and I'm only, 30-ish.
Well, and then I think another thought experiment is like, so imagine that tomorrow you woke up and found out all of this was a simulation. Like, how long would it take you of living in this other world to just kind of like forget about what happened in this world? And,
right.
You know what I mean?
These are all arguments against my feeling bad for my sister who's still burning in hell. But I'll point out that I'm pretty sure the Bible also says that if you're in heaven, you can see the people that are burning in hell. And like, it's not like out of sight, out of mind. It's like a constant reminder from God, like, remember?
Right.
If God,
but again, you're considering that you're going to look down at the people burning in hell and feel sorry for them. You in this like scenario, you're thinking that you'll be up there as a human looking down on hell, which would be horrific.
No, I get it.
But you won't be.
I'll be one with the monster.
Yes.
Oh!
Yeah.
I mean,
And-
that sounds way better.
Yeah.
That
And-
sounds way better.
And also, again, it's like you're waking up from a thing that's not real. Like being apart from this
No, you're
God
right.
is not real. It's
You're
like
right. That's religion's
it's like
view,
the
is that,
Matrix.
Like, this life is like a test, right?
Yeah, so it's like, why would God not test your loyalty by making you do some appalling shit? Like, and having appalling shit happen to you and still demanding your loyalty? Like, if you want to be one with God, you got to suffer through all that with no doubt. And, like,
I think it's so funny. Like, atheists and religious people kind of agree that life is a test, but we just totally disagree with what the purpose of the test is, who's administering it, or what the grading system is. You know?
Yeah. Well, it's like, it's insane, some of the disagreements. Like, a lot of my Christian friends will be like, God's giving you the easy way out. He's not asking you to do, like, penance or, like, do any favors for him. He just wants you to believe. And I'm like, dude, that's the hardest part. I could, like, I could go do charity work all day, every day for the rest of my life and tell other people about God all day, every day. Like that, I would have no issue with that. What I have issue with is actually believing that he exists. It makes no sense. Like, so I don't have any proof. So if God is merciful, he's literally given me, with my scientific mind, the hardest test he could give me. And he's given the easiest test to all those other non-skeptical people ever. And then I just am faced with that. Like,
Yeah.
Why wouldn't it be like that, though? That seems like it would be that seems to me like it would be the most obvious situation.
Well,
if God was real and he was in the balance was an eternity of good or an eternity of bad, don't you think that your existence on Earth would be the most difficult test that you could conceive of, being a scientist and trying to believe in something that is so clearly false?
yeah, no, I know. I'm just saying, why do some... So the thing is, Christians are arguing, a lot of them, are arguing that the greatest part about Jesus is that he leveled the playing field, right? All other gods were expecting you to do stuff for them. All Jesus asked you to do is believe. And to me, it's not any easier. It may be actually harder, which means that he didn't level the playing field. He like, there are people who are not skeptical. They were born not skeptical, they lived not skeptical, they died not skeptical, and they were born in a Christian family who raised them Christian. There are people like me who were born with a scientific mind and were raised in a loose household. And then there are people who were born with a very, very skeptical mind who literally never heard about Jesus ever. And even if they had, they would have been super skeptical. That's not a level playing field. Some of those people are guaranteed heaven and eternity, and some of those people are not. Like, so it's just, that's what I'm arguing. It's like, I totally agree with you, Trey. I think that's a perfectly good test from this theoretical God. It is not the test that Christians are saying it is. It's one of the hardest tests ever. Like,
so Trey, are you supposing that like God made this reality just for Joe to test Joe's skeptical scientific mind? Or
Oh, exactly.
okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So
'Cause
no one-
I was
Yeah,
going to
I
point
don't-
out that like as the owner of like the paradise or heaven, most people would say it's reasonable to say that like God should be benevolent towards humanity, right? Like the owner of heaven shouldn't be like the fucking dick, right?
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think
Right.
people say that, but I don't know how you draw that conclusion without imposing human values on
Didn't
something
you-
that's not human.
I guess your question about God there though was kind of imposing a standard upon God, saying like he would always challenge each person with the strongest possible challenge for their mind or whatever.
Well, I think what Joe's problem is that he thinks that he's being tested in an unfair way, and that there's some people that are being tested in a way that's even harder than that, and some people that are being tested in an easier way.
Yes, but again, I'm only arguing that point against what Christians are saying, right?
Right, but I'm saying, if God was going to make it the most difficult for you, wouldn't he put you in a place where like it seems like other people have a much easier go of it?
Yes.
Like, doesn't that increase your difficulty?
No, I mean, I have no idea. I could imagine God being literally any way. The benevolent God who accepts all of us, the non-benevolent God who accepts none of us, the God in the middle who tests us really hard.
The made-up God by humans in order to generate money.
Sure,
Right.
yeah, all of it. All of it. I'm just saying I don't buy the Christian argument. If the Christian argument is that I'm the only real one and everyone else is fake and this is God's big test for me, that is more believable because it's logically coherent than what they're saying, which is like, Jesus is the best news ever. He's not. He's not the best news. He's possibly the worst news. He's made it much harder for everybody. Like, imagine, like, in the old days, if you lived in a Christian culture or if you lived in a Jewish culture where everybody else was a practicing Jew and you just didn't believe in God, and you just still did all the stuff you were supposed to do, like you didn't eat meat on certain days and all followed all the rules, you would go in that theory to Jewish heaven because you did the things that you were supposed to do. But now you could do all of those things and not fully accept Jesus Christ, and you're going straight to hell. That is way harder. So I just think it doesn't make any sense. Like, a way to put this in joke form, a colleague of mine was like walking down the street one time, and this person walked up to him and handed him a pamphlet and said, "Hey, have you heard the good news about Jesus Christ?" And he's like, "No, tell me about it." And he's like, "Well, Jesus Christ has saved you from your sins. You're saved." And he was like, "Oh, great." And then the guy was like, "Do you want to hear any more?" And he's like, "No, why would I want to hear any more? I've been saved." And he threw the pamphlet and walked away. Like, and that's like, that's all I'm saying. It's like just logically inconsistent. It doesn't make any sense to me. And especially it doesn't make any sense because they say that's the truth. And then they're like, that joke I just told doesn't make sense to them because they're like, no. I mean, a true believer in Jesus would start to be a good person. Oh, so you're saying you also have to do good deeds? No, you don't. But like, you're going to. It's like, oh, okay. I literally don't know what you're trying to tell me anymore. Like,
yeah, and the Bible isn't even clear about whether or not just belief in Jesus is enough, right? Like, there's a verse in, like, I think it's Matthew 19 that's like about how the rich man will have a harder time getting into heaven than fitting a camel through the eye of a needle or something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, they can't even be consistent in this time, but also like any modern day Christian who believes like new agey stuff has to basically admit that they've been wrong for 1900 years.
Well,
and
like Christianity is kind of set up like this like system where no one can ever be sure, right? Like, because you never know in your heart of hearts, did you accept Jesus? What the fuck does that mean? And at least with Jewish people, like, you could know, like, okay, I masturbated 3 times today. I got to find 3 goats and kill them, and I got to do it a very specific way, apparently. But like, as long as I do that, then I'm fine. It's even, and like, I'll go to heaven if I die.
Yeah, it's like you could know in other religions who's saved and not, because it's like, well, Greg does all of the things that the book says, so he's clearly saved. I do none of the things that the book says, I'm clearly not. Whereas like in Christianity, it's all up to mystery. You have no idea. You could literally do all of the things. Like,
I think you'd find those kinds of problems in all religions.
Yeah, I mean, I think
in all of the old world religions.
There are,
there's discrepancies in the Old Testament that I think, the Jews were struggling with.
Have you guys ever heard of like the strings a Jewish community will tie around like the borders of this community, so that because there's a law about how you can't bring anything outside the house on Sabbath. So like if you want to take your baby for a walk in a stroller, like it's easier if you live in Brooklyn to just tie a string around your neighborhood, and then you call that all indoors because it's one community or public area, and then you can walk your baby around because you can bring your stroller out of the house on Sabbath.
Huh.
So baller.
They also have
fucking amazing. Like they went through all the trouble to write down these rules, keep track of them for thousands of years, and then like they still work around them. Like, just throw the fucking rule out, guys. Come on.
That's another really good way that the Bible becomes like an awesome book. Like, if you want something that literally you can ponder over for the rest of your life because of how absolutely confusing it is, there is a really good book out there for that, and it's called the Bible. So, propping the Bible
Yeah.
up. That's my job.
It's pretty rad. It's pretty sweet. It's a pretty sweet thing to have if you're interested in that kind of thing.
Yeah, as long as you don't pay for it. It's a pretty good thing to have. Just don't buy it.
Yeah, do people buy the...
I mean,
Yeah, they buy Bibles.
I've had 2 or 3 different friends who've bought me Bibles. They've gone to a store, purchased a Bible, given me said Bible. Often after purchasing wrapping paper and wrapping said Bible. Like, I don't know what they're trying to give me based on who they are, and then also the weight of the package and shape.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you for giving me the God delusion. Oh, thanks, guys. Yeah, big surprise it's a Bible. Like, anyway, go ahead, Trey.
Oh, I've gotten those too, but I always... like, I have a picture of them, like, at the Bible store or whatever. Like, walking up and being like, it's cool. I don't have to pay for this one. It's for a heathen. Like, why would they charge? You know what I mean? Like, if you wanted a nicer Bible, I could understand why they'd charge for that. But if, like, you're giving it away... isn't like I see there's a price tag on this, but you know that, like, you know, your job is to, like, spread the word of Jesus, so I'm just going to help you out. I'll be walking out with this.
I don't know.
I will pay you for the wrapping paper, though.
That'd be great if that happened, because it'd be really funny. And then my argument that churches aren't businesses would break down. But unfortunately, I don't think that happens. So
Yeah, I think they pay for them.
yeah. I don't know what they need to collect money for. They don't pay taxes, so I don't know exactly what they're doing with all that money. Besides, anyway, blah blah blah. blah.
They're feeding the poor.
I wonder
with a
if-
portion of it.
I wonder if people.
Some
who
of them
listen
are
to this-
feeding the poor.
I mean,
With
to
the
be
portion
fair,
are
of
feeding
the
the
money
poor.
they make, yes,
yes,
you're right.
Some of them are.
You know,
super
you
feeding
could just
the poor.
give money to a soup kitchen
Uh-huh.
and, like, you know, or volunteer. So you could, like, feed
I-
the poor.
I think the issue, though, is that soup kitchens are more likely to be run by heathens. So I would want to give my money to a church where I know that, like, they use a portion of it to molest children, and then the other portion of it to do all other God's work, I guess.
I tried to tell someone about Modest Needs, this charity where, like, they help families that, like, can't pay a car repair bill or some bill that's come up.
Yeah.
And like the company will just pay the bill directly instead of giving the money family to pay the bill. It's like, you know, the money's going to the right place, and it's a good idea to kind of help crowdsource these people that just need help in little situations. I told a Christian friend about it, and he was like, "Oh, well, it was set up by an atheist, so I mean, how could I trust it?" I was like, "Well, it's an actual charity. It's not a church, so, like, they have to, you know, track who gives them money, where the money goes out to, like, what they spend it on, and, like, you know, they get audited. It's an actual charity." And he just kind of, like, responded with, "Well, but if he's not a believer, you know, how could I ever, in good conscience, give my money to that cause?" I couldn't believe it, you know?
Yeah, it's crazy because the people who voted for Nixon, after Nixon stepped down, those people were like, "Oh, it's cool. I should still go vote. Like, I clearly make good decisions." and then they voted for Bush, probably, and then Bush, and then Trump. And after Bush and Bush, they were like, "Oh, that was a terrible choice. I made a really bad pick. I'm going to go ahead and vote for Trump." And after Trump's done, clear, I mean, like, I don't mean to call this, like, so far out, but already they're like, terrible decision. And they're still going to think that they're good voters, like, that they make good choices. I don't understand that. So it's the same with the Catholic Church. It's like, okay, we've been giving money to people who've been just horribly
Just
raping children.
all the kids,
Like,
just all of them.
It can't be understated, like, how much rape this one organization is responsible for. Like,
And facilitated.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
moving them away
yeah.
when they're about to be investigated.
And-
in
and
the middle of the night, too.
they've
It's
made
just
very
crazy.
little change, if any. It might be worse. We have no idea. It might be worse than it used to be. By a coin flip, it's like a 50-50 chance. Like, they clearly haven't done anything. And those people are still like, yeah, I'm a good person. Why would I give money to anything else but the Catholic Church? They're doing good things with it. Like, I can't trust atheist organizations. Like, I make good choices. It's like, no, you don't. You don't make good choices. Like, I don't understand.
Do you know? There's this thing. It's called the newspaper. It's so awesome. It tells you about stuff that's happening just all around the world. Just all around.
Oh God, I don't.
Well, that's part of the system, though. Are you saying that because they made a mistake before that they're all bad and that
Before, where are you
that
drawing the line?
we should be
Trey?
thrown out?
Where are you drawing the line,
I'm
Trey?
sa-
Like, even the current
I'm saying
Pope has participated in, like, moving people in the middle of the night so they avoid prosecution. Like,
Yeah.
this happened, like, last week or month or something. Like, I don't know. Look, give me a 4-week window, and I bet I could nail them on that.
It's like the difference is like, so people say the same thing about science, right? Like, why should I trust a group of people who have made mistakes over and over again? Because generally speaking, the people who've made this mistakes are the one admitting that they made the mistake. Often they're like, hey, I thought if you did A, it led to B, but then I realized it actually leads to C. Like, my bad, here's my new research.
Yeah, they either admit it or they get marginalized,
Yeah.
right? By the overwhelming consensus of the rest of their field.
Right.
It's
But-
a self-correcting mechanism.
But that's like not what happened with the church. It's like they got docked for what they did, and then they kept doing it, and they at no point admitted that what they did was wrong, and they're still doing it.
Uh-huh.
That's a totally different thing. And again, with like the Moore, what's Moore's first name? The Alabama senator?
Ray Moore.
Yeah. So he never admitted what he did was wrong or that it happened, even though it clearly did. Like, and now is suing Alabama because he's like mad that he lost. Like, it's a totally different thing. It's just a totally, and all those people are like, who voted for him were like, yeah, I made the right choice. And I should vote by my heart the next time. Like,
Well, yeah. I mean,
okay.
Yeah, but even if they admitted that they were wrong or they felt like they were wrong, or in the case of the Catholic Church, there was like you might see it as like token changes, but there were changes that they could point to. The whole point though is that they, just because they did something wrong before, doesn't mean, one, it doesn't outweigh other good that they've done, and two, even if they were the worst people ever, they can be instantly redeemed and everything is good moving forward. That's like the fucking genius at the heart of religion.
Well, Christianity
especially,
in particular,
is that
right?
you
Yeah.
just like instantly can be.
completely
You don't have to
forgiven.
you don't have to carry your mistakes forward. You're just like instantly, I sinned, but it's cool because I repented,
And that's fair. That's totally
and now I don't have to answer for any wrongs that I've done.
If anything, it makes more people follow you, right? Because like most Christians would admit that they're broken people too.
In fact,
Right.
it's a core tenet. In fact, right?
Yeah,
Like,
it's-
they
it's
teach
the-
you you're
it's the
broken
narrative.
from your start.
I've met plenty of Christians who are like, that's not important, and I'm perfect because I follow Jesus. But I've like seen like podcasters who like, or like YouTube, like really conservative things, who like, cheat on their wife horribly and get caught. Like when some of those like cheating websites and peer-to-peer like dating things, like the names got released, it was like these conservative talk show hosts basically, and then they just came on with their wives and they're like, yeah, I repented to my wife, I made a mistake. It's like they got more followers after that because they're a broken Christian, like delivering a good message, making the right choices. Like, and I first of all, I applaud them that they apologize and say that they're going to change, but then I'm just worried about all the rest of it. So,
Well, like, most people don't, right? Like, if you're willing to cheat on your wife and lie to her face for months, probably, you're probably not going to change that behavior overnight. Number two, the fact that, like, some people don't consider some behavior to be kind of disqualifying from my circle of friends, you know, or people I trust. Like, there are people, no matter how well I know you, Joe, if you steal from me personally, I'm never going to trust you the same way. Like, I'll forgive you, but I will never trust you the same way. And I will never grant you the complete forgiveness that Christianity really has to offer for the person that simply prays to Jesus and says, I'm sorry, as long as they mean it from the bottom of their heart.
Yeah, because I mean, you and me believe in deeds, not thoughts, right?
Well, I mean, I believe in both, but I think that deeds are certainly more important.
Tell me what you mean by thoughts, though.
I mean, I don't think that people that constantly think the most atrocious things in their heads and just simply don't say them or simply don't act upon them are the best people in the world compared to people that don't do that. I mean, thoughts count for something.
Oh, so I would say that is in their favor.
Thoughts that are engaged with and expanded upon count for something. Let me be clear, because we can't really control what pops up in our mind.
Okay.
But if you sit there and
we probably agree, but like if you're the type of person who like you're like all day every day you think about like catcalling women, just every time you see a woman you have this urge to catcall her, and then you're like, no, that's like not a good thing to do, and I'm not going to do that. I think you're a stronger and better person than the person who never gets that urge, and that's the reason they're not doing it.
Agreed.
Right? So like,
agreed. I guess I was thinking of people that like might be thinking hateful thoughts in their mind all the time.
Yeah, I mean, if you're doing something, I think deeds are more important than thoughts. But if you're doing something and like not doing it wholeheartedly or like doing it for ulterior motives, like obviously like that matters too. Yeah. Anywho.
I was kind of.
But you're saying you would never. But you were saying that if Joe stole from you, you could never trust him the same way as before. And I think you were going to say that, so you would never truly forgive him in the way that the Christian faith discusses truly forgiving someone.
You'll hear people, religious folks, like that act like you'll hear people talk about Ray Moore in the same way. You know, he's repented, and therefore we should forgive him and give him another chance, and just like before, essentially. It's like, well, I mean, we can't just forget the fact that like he totally groped those women or whatever he did. I can't even remember.
I have no idea, man.
Yeah,
definitely like predatory stuff with 16-year-old girls and stuff.
Right. To act like he said I'm sorry and he really meant it, so therefore it's okay. It's fucking insanity to me. You know, there is some behavior that is speaking to something that should be avoided in a person.
I don't know, man. Like, imagine that, like, I don't know that, I mean, I guess I do believe in maybe disqualifying behaviors, but it's like my bar is a lot lower than the average public, it seems like,
yeah,
right?
Well, I think Louis C.K. is a really handy example here. Right? You know, like, he's admitted to what he did. He agrees with what the women have stated that came out against him.
Yeah.
And kind of has a story that, you know, it's really weird, and I don't think it's great that he did it, but like certainly way better than what I've heard against other people as far as allegations are concerned. And,
right.
And the fact that he's learned from it, I do believe that he has, and I think that his actions and his words since then speak to a different person than what you see from Ray Moore, who's still denying things.
Right. I mean, I agree, but me and Trey did a whole podcast this one time on that subject, and if we were thinking that because of like our liberal bias and because he's a huge hero
because
of
we
ours.
like Louis C.K.
Yeah.
Right.
Now I don't think that's the case. Like, I think time and time again, like we see that on the liberal side.